Hello guys, it's your boy Donzizi from Allnaijabeats again, and I'm here to give you another video. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about some of the secrets that afropop producers don't normally share. We all know how secretive they can be. Recently, I watched a video where one of the main producers, that we know, one of the big names from way back, was asked to show a video of how he made a beat. And you could see, he wasn't really happy about that request. He wasn't throughout the video. He was a little bit withdrawn. He didn't share a lot of information. He didn't show the presets that he used. He barely showed the plugins. He was really just, rushing through the video and saying things like, as you can see. But yeah, we couldn't see anything because you weren't showing us. But shout out to channels like Freeme TV that have started to reach out to producers, and a lot of them are now opening up. I recently watched a video where Freeme TV interviewed Lord Sky, who made audio money for is it Rude Boy, and it was really revealing video, and he was really open, and that's the kind of thing we want to see more of in the industry, because we all need to encourage each other. We need to keep sharing. We need to keep sharing information so that everyone can learn and everyone can grow. So the first secret, I'm going to be sharing 10 secrets in this video. There are more than 20, 50 tips and tricks that you can get from, afropop production. But in this video, I'll be focusing on production, and I'll be focusing on 10 major tips. And I assure you that if you apply these 10 tips to your production, you will definitely see a significant improvement in the beats that you make. And I'm not kidding you. So let's jump right into it, okay? Okay, welcome back. So the first tip I want to share with you, which is really important, is the use of samples. Okay, so a lot of afropop producers use samples, and this is something that is normal in the production world. It doesn't make you a lazy producer. It's not a bad thing to use a sample. A sample just means that you are trying to use an external source to spice up the original production that you're working on, and this is perfectly acceptable. I'll use 2 beats in this video to illustrate the 10 points that I'm going to be sharing, and I'll play the first beat for you, and then you can see how it's made, and then I'll quickly just show you why it's important to use samples, and then you stretch them. And when I say samples, I'm not referring to like your kicks and your snares, but I'm talking about actual loops and other types of samples. As you can see, it's a really modern sounding, nice Afrobeat. But the main sound that drives this song, actually, these are the main sounds that drive the song. And these are samples. As you can see, it's not something that I played. It's a sample. It's from, from the Kashmir pack. More on that later in the video. But when you lack inspiration, this can really help. And so what I did basically was when I heard this sample, I was like, oh, I can do something with this sample. And then if you look at it, let me zoom it a little bit. You see it's the same sample that I just repeated 4 times. But what I did was I changed the pitch of the sample to match the exact chord progression that I wanted. So you see the third one is a different pitch. The fourth one is a different pitch. And so, you basically find it by ear, or you can play your keyboard, play a piano along with it to find the specific progression that you're looking for. And so with this sound, every other thing just comes in. Another sample I used was a shaker loop. I mean, a lot of people use shaker loops. It's quite common. And you can hear what this sounds like. Now, this is exactly what's driving this song. And then it's easy to play all the other elements. And I specifically made this to illustrate to you that you don't always have to make like a beat from scratch and struggle with, oh, what's the melody? How do I build this beat? Afropop producers do this all the time. Majority of songs that you hear, are made from samples. And sometimes it's a guitar, sometimes it's a piano, sometimes it's just something. But definitely, there's always a sample involved in Afropop production. And if you start using samples, then you'll get better. I'll show you quickly, and I think I've done this in a previous video, how to use a sample. When you drag in a sample, let's say you drag in a, I don't know, let me find something, a loop. Okay, this is a fill. Let's try a fill. Now, when you drag it in, bear in mind that it's not going to sound as, of course, you want to turn down the volume because it will be very loud. It won't sound on time, because it's a sample that was made in a different tempo. So the first thing, you turn down the volume, then you change the mode to stretch so that you can stretch it. So you see, it doesn't really sound nice. So what we do is we activate stretch from here. Usually I also activate none here so that I can stretch it, without any grid alignments. So now I pull it until I get here, and then I listen. Now you see I'm also using a metronome. So you see it's actually sounding good. And let's mute this other one. So it's actually bouncing in time with the metronome. You could actually shorten it, again, and so that's another feel. But again, because my song is slow, I prefer this feel. But what you notice is you have to make sure it aligns with the grid, and you use the stretch button here, and eventually, you turn it off and you have your beat. So let's hear what the row sounds like now. Yeah, so I mean, I probably won't use this on this beat, but it's just to illustrate to you how to use samples. You can do this for guitars, pianos, basically every sound that you can think of would benefit from this. Okay guys, so let's look at the next tip, which will enhance your Afrobeat. And this tip is, make sure as you make your beat, you start to put effects. Okay, most people would advise you and say, okay, well, when you make a beat, don't put too many effects. Just make the beat first, and then later when you're mixing, you put in the effects. But the thing is that sometimes effects bring the groove to the beat. So I'll show you an example of why putting effects is so important. So again, as you can see on this beat, if you go to my mixer, you see that some of the beat elements already have like effects on them. So like you see on this guy, it's a guitar. I'm working on the EQ. If you listen here, you find that there's a piano from Contact. More on that later. So that electronic piano has that sound, and I'm already putting some delay and some reverb. So you hear that pam pam. You can hear the effects on it. If you listen to, let's even go to something as simple as the police siren. I have a police siren somewhere. You can see there's a delay on it, So that's just the basic thing. As you make your beat, keep putting effects, reverbs, delays, choruses, flangers, whatever you need to put on your beat to make it sound good. Just keep putting it. That's something that a lot of Afropop producers do, but they probably never tell you. And some will even say, I did a lot of tweaking and tweaking. Well, no tweaking. You just put some nice effects and it was sounding good. Okay, guys, let's move to the next tip. So the next tip here is make sure you use the best possible samples, and this is very, very important. In fact, I would say this is the rule. Out of the 10 tips I'm giving you, this is the producer's secret that makes the biggest difference, frankly speaking. And I'll show you, on this beat why it's so important to use the right samples. Okay, so if you look at these beats that I've made, you see that I have used drum samples from the Kashmir group. If you register on Splice, you can get the Kashmir, it's called Sounds of Kashmir. There's volume 1, 2, and 3. But the sounds are really different. They are very well made. You can hear this clap. It's very clean and very punchy. And, it's a combination of good samples, good drum samples, that you can hear this percussion. It sounds like there's a stereo effect on it. It's like spread around and it really envelops you. See? Same for this. It's very clean, very dry, very punchy. Very clean, very dry, very punchy. Okay, so I find some sample packs really good. I also bought the Machine Global Shake from Native Instruments. This also has very nice, clean samples. And then, great loops, great sounds overall. There's a big difference when I play some of my old beats where I didn't really use good samples and the beats I make now. I see that there's a very significant difference just because of the type of samples I use. And if you check my master bus, you see that there's nothing. All these guys are switched off, and they aren't even. This is a notebook. This is tonal balance control. These don't have any impact on the audio, but they are even switched off. But you can hear how heavy, clean the sound already, how it already comes through. So if you are listening to this with cheap earpieces, you might not appreciate what I'm saying, but if you're in the studio with your studio monitors, you appreciate that this sound really comes through the speakers. It jumps out at you. It's sounding like it's already mixed. But the only reason it's like this is because I chose the right samples. Okay, so this is a very great rule, and you need to make sure you follow it. Guys, very similar to the rule I just shared with you about using the best possible samples, you should use the best possible sounds and synths. And this is the next tip that I'm sharing with you. Okay, and there's a very big difference between the sounds from certain plugins and others. So if you use sounds from Hypersonic, for instance, they might sound really good when you use them, but when you master the song, when you mix and master, you realize that those sounds aren't as thick and strong, and they tend to fade and not have the same strength when they are really pushed hard in the mix. But if you use a sound, that's why you see a lot of afropop producers, the really good ones, use things like Contact, Omnisphere, plugins that really give a rich sound. And if you are going to use a plugin like Nexus, Hypersonic, think about layering the sounds and using more sounds, and which is something I do a lot when I use something like Expand. When I use Expand, I try to layer the sounds so that I can achieve the same richness that I typically get from Contact, Omnisphere, and others. Okay, so if you look at the synths I used on this particular beat, you can see that I used the mini grand piano from Air, which is a very good, hear the sound. It's a very rich piano, like it's really good. And then, I also have Ion Axe, which isn't really a very high-end plugin, but the guitar sound is really rich and the tone really stays even after you master. Of course, I have Contact, I use Contact a lot. I tend to use Omnisphere a lot, but usually I have to bounce, the sound because the plugin is so heavy. But of course, I use Contact, and usually, if you remember from my old videos, I can use up to 8 sounds in Contact or 16 sounds, and simply use the MIDI out plugin from FL Studio, open the number of channels that I want. But in this case, I'm just using the electric piano from our contact, and you try and get all these libraries. I also use Nexus, but the thing about Nexus is when I use Nexus, it's usually very specific sounds that I already know are very rich. Like here, I have a guitar sound from Nexus, which is a really cool sound, because I already tested it and I know it's good. So, but I don't use a lot of the common sounds in Nexus because when it comes to the mixing and mastering stage, they aren't as strong. So the big tip here is make sure when you select your synths and your sounds, you are really adding value, okay? And the sound that you are picking is good. And let me tell you a little secret. A lot of producers use the default synths that come with FL Studio because many of them have very rich sounds. I'll show you an example. I have this guy called GMS from FL Studio, which is not that common. But if you listen to GMS, the sounds are rich, very rich, okay? So if you go down, let's go to the leads, the synth sounds. So there are some rich sounds in FL Studio. Don't ignore FL Studio synths. They're also really good. Okay guys, so the fifth tip that I'm going to share with you is that your timing is very important. So you need to make sure that every element that you throw into your beat or into your sound is on time. And when we say time, we are talking about different time signatures, and we're also talking about different grid elements. So sometimes you want to use like a half beat, or you want to use a step, which is like a full beat, or you want to use like a triplet. So when you arrange your sound, make sure that you are very conscious of the time. And this applies even to rolling. This is something that the professionals do. When amateurs roll, they just throw in all the sounds and just hope that somebody will like it. But the professionals, when they roll, the rolling usually follows specific timing, but with a little humanization to make it more natural. So I'll show you an example. Now, if you see the roll I've done on this beat, so you can actually count 1, 2, 3, 4 with the metronome. Listen. So you understand. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. So how did I achieve this? This particular roll was the most difficult, even though it sounds the easiest. I've arranged this according to a third step. So you see, I use 1/3 beat here. So it's different from the normal step that you are used to. You see, it's off the normal grid. So if I put it on this normal grid, this is how it would have sounded. Let me mute. It will not have sounded normal, but see the difference. So that's the groove, okay? So it goes. So it's very important, if you want your beat to sound professional, you have to ensure that even when you put your rolls, they're on time. Okay guys, so the sixth secret that I'm going to be sharing with you has to do with reversing your samples. So a lot of times when you use a sample, everyone instantly knows, I know that sample, that's in the Vengeance pack, or I know that sample is in, I mean, they could easily recognize it, especially if it's a sample that has been used before on a song. So one secret is to actually reverse the sample, and creatively just make it sound different, okay? And it will also save you from copyright issues, because as you know, if you sample from somebody's song and you don't get the copyright issues sorted out, you might be in trouble. So let me show you how you can reverse a sample. Okay guys, so now I have a different beat here, and this beat is let me just play a little bit of it and then I'll explain the reversal. Okay, guys, I really like this beat, but I'll get to why I like it later. So, but we're talking about reversal of samples. So if you check this particular sample, this one, this is how it sounds. So basically, this is a reverse sample. This is the original sample. Okay, so, but of course, if I put it, everybody will be like, oh, I think I recognize that sample. So I'm like, okay, so let me reverse it and just pick a little bit of it. And this is how, if you reverse it, this is how it sounds. I just took the ending part, okay? So actually it's complementing this next sound. So it's like saying, you may go, you may go. So that's just the creativity that comes in. So reversing samples can actually help you, really, be creative, give you new ideas, and also help you prevent copyright issues. Okay, guys, so the 7th tip or secret that I want to reveal to you is that for every beat that you make, you have to ensure that there is a reference melody. Okay, so what am I saying, or what do I mean by reference melody? What I mean is you can't just make a random beat out of nowhere. I mean, if you're doing the whole, creative, trippy, out of the way type of beat, that's different. But if you want to make a beat that an artist can vibe to, you want to be able to send a beat to a big star like Olamide or Davido or Wizkid and say, man, I want you to check out this beat. Then you need to think about a song that you really like, and you like the melody of that song, and then you try to replicate the melody of that song, but then make it your own and make some changes. And when you do that, it becomes very easy. So for me, what I do, if you look at my Magic AB plugin, that's why I always have it on my default template. And the reason I have this plugin is I can easily just open it. I have a whole folder of Naija songs, listed here, songs that I really like or I feel are well mixed. I just pick one song here and load it on here, and then I start playing it, and then I listen to it, for like I listen to the entire song. I'm able to get an idea about the beat I'm about to create, okay? And it's not like you are copying. For instance, the 2 beats I just played in this tutorial, you can't really point out any particular song that I'm copying, but actually I was inspired to make these beats from other songs that are out there. So that's my tip number 7. Make your melodies from reference melodies, and it will make your melodies more relatable, more professional, and more groovy. So what's my 8th tip? My 8th tip is that you should produce your beats to fill the entire octave, the entire spectrum, frequency spectrum. And that's what a lot of people don't know. The reason why your raw beats should sound already mixed is the fact that you have taken all the frequency curves into consideration. So let's just jump right in. I'll show you. Listen very well to this beat and notice how different sounds take up different parts of the spectrum. Okay, so if you listen, you see that I have a pad which takes most of my low mids. And a little bit of high mids too, but mostly low mids. Then you have this guy that takes most of the high mids, combined with this guy to also high mids. But the thing about this guy is that he has a different tone. So if you add these two together, even though they are both high mids, they complement. Now, if you listen to the shakers, they cover the high end. So you see the song is already mixing itself. Then you have a bass that covers the bass part. Now you have the drums, which actually Of course, drums tend to take the entire spectrum, but because they are grooves and they come in and out, it goes well with the other melodies. So listen. So the importance of this tip is that you already have a song that sounds balanced and well mixed and already rich. And I guarantee you, if you make a beat like this, even when the artist voices on it and you take it for mixing and mastering, it's going to be a breeze. Mixing and mastering will just be to enhance it a little bit, but it will already sound good and almost ready. So that's about how you can use your sounds to occupy the entire frequency spectrum. The 9th tip I'm going to share, or secret, is that always swing your beats. Guys, FL Studio by default does not swing beats. Okay, if you look at the way of FL Studio is structured, if that's what you use for production, it doesn't swing beats. You have to swing it yourself. And it makes a big difference between swinging and not swinging, because the whole groove, what makes people want to dance, is the human element, is the movement, okay? The organic way that the song progresses. This is why people really dance to a tune, or they want to move their body to a tune. So if you just make a beat and you don't swing it, it's going to sound really robotic. And if you produce with Logic Pro by default already has a swing built in, has like 50% swing built in. So that really makes it awesome. As you are making the beat, it already sounds groovy. So this is the swing button in FL Studio, and I'm just gonna show you this beat with swing and without swing. So this is, now it's swung about 40%, so I'm going to take it to 0. So if you listen, you see that the shakers and everything just seems to be going like straight and mechanical. Now let's go with the swing. So you just listen to the snares and the shakers and you can instantly tell that there is better groove in it. So the 10th secret I'll reveal to you that most professional afropop producers have is the fact that for every beat you make, you must ask yourself this question: what is it about this beat that is special? What is special about this beat? What is unique about it? Why should Rema hear my beat and want to vibe to it? What's different? How is it different from just any other beat out there that has been used before? And this is a question I ask myself for every beat. And when you ask yourself that question, if you can't find anything special about your beat, then you now have to start thinking about what elements can I introduce to this beat, that will make it different. And what you're introducing could be very basic, could be very generic, could just be, throwing in a very odd sounding conga, and that conga comes in like, every 2 bars. And that makes your beat different and special. So, we'll jump right into this beat again, and I'll show you what I like about this beat. And there are a couple of things that make it special. The first thing, which is really standing out, is it's a sample. It's an Arab, type. Yeah, but of course I had to do a little tweaking to make it fit in, especially with the timing, because it's already in F, and this song is in F major, so I didn't need to change the pitch or change the key. But for me, just having this break and then having that sound is really awesome. Then another thing that's special about this beat, obviously, is these 2 sounds. So that's something else. Then one thing is this break in the beat, okay? So even if you're playing it in the club, at this point, the DJ will probably have to start mixing some other song in, because it's it doesn't have drums. But if you listen to it, it's very emotional, especially with this arpeggiated piano that I introduced. Let's listen. This one. And you can see this piano is going with an auto pan. So you can see it swinging from the left to the right ear. So it adds movement and it adds a very emotional feel to this part. Then this guy. Okay guys, so that's my 10 producer secrets that Afro pop producers would not normally share with you. I'm going to do another video that will show you 10 mixing secrets that they also won't share with you. But I want you to, to really appreciate and understand that you can make a beat that sounds professional, but you just need to remember these 10 rules and also, keep studying other rules that will help you to make better beats. It's been your boy, Don Zizi from Allnaijabeats, and as usual, like my videos, continue to subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon, keep watching all my videos, shoot me an email at allnaijabeats@gmail.com, and I'll be sure to respond to you. Have a good one. Bye.